G'day, I'm Mark from Self Sufficient Me, and today we're talking incubating your own eggs. Right now, in the true sense of my new type of videos, which is the vlog type thing, I'm going to not call this a vlog. I'm going to call this a specific video on how to incubate eggs, in this case duck eggs that I've got, with a cheap incubator that only costs, I think it's about $80 if that, and what I do. But I'm not going to edit this thing too much. I don't have time for that anymore. Well, I do have time, but I don't have a heck of a lot of time to edit at the moment. So bear with me if there's a few ums and ahs and all that type of terrible stuff, but let's get into it. Essentially, what I wanted to show you guys was a lot of people make big mistakes when they, and I was one of them. You buy a cheap incubator and it works okay for a while and then it fails. And this needn't happen if you actually look after it correctly. And what most of us have done when you buy your first cheap Chinese incubator is you think that it's just supposed to work the way they say it works. You're supposed to whack it on the bench, put it on and let it run, and generally you'll get one or two good batches of eggs out of it and it works like a champ, and eventually the thing dies, and most of the time it's the thermostat and the heating element that burn out in them because they work really hard. And the main reason why they work hard is because they just don't have the insulation built into the incubator to keep and sustain that temperature. So the motor works really hard, particularly if there's fairly large temperature drops between day and night or whenever, and that means that that motor just cannot handle it. Now, I've noticed over the last few years people who sell these cheaper incubators say they work great, but they now are starting to warn people that you may need to use some extra insulation. What I've found is some of the people that I know on my forum have built pretty elaborate type of boxes that they put their incubator in, their cheap Chinese incubator. First of all, before I get into it more, the reason why I buy cheap incubators, I've always bought cheap incubators simply because they do the job. And I'm only a little backyard setup. I don't want to buy overspend on some wicked incubator for $1,000 and only use it occasionally. I'm not breeding to sell my birds. I'm not breeding too much. I only breed as much as I need, and even though we eat our birds and have a fairly good turnover of quail and ducks, I still don't require a big expensive incubator to run them. I can get by with just this, and this is my third incubator. The first one was one of those hoverbators, which was a little bit more of an expensive, cheap version, made of sort of foam like this, but still only about 100 and something bucks. The next one was the JN848, which was that generic one you see all over eBay, the Chinese one, the big yellow one. Now they've stacked them up and you can get 96 eggs in them or something, but mine had a capability of 48, and they work fine, but I did the mistake that many other people made with that cheap Chinese one, and is I ran it without any extra installation. Now on my forum, the other people built specific boxes for them, and they're running them fine. But then you'll see also on my forum, selfsufficientculture.com, that a lot of people are in trouble with them. They're constantly killing it, and I'm replying saying, yes, this is a common problem. The heater element burns out of the JN848 and all the similar, even newer models. And this one, this is quite a new one. I've had it for about 12 months and it works very well. It's a unique design, works successfully. I've made videos about this particular incubator on how it actually works. This is not what this video is really about. It's just to give you a rundown on what I'm doing today with these duck eggs, but a general rundown on how I look after this thing. But yeah, so the crux of the thing is, if you're going to use a cheap incubator like this, you need to also look at some insulation. Now you can wrap it up in pillows, and I've done that before. Put it in the box that it came in and stuff it with some blankets or whatever. Whatever you can do to minimise this thing working its guts out, you're going to get many years service out of a $80 incubator. And if you're just using it for backyard purposes, like I was saying, you know, breeding chickens once a year just when they're coming into laying, or breeding the few extra ducks, or getting some eggs in the post to renew your stock, or doing quail. You know, you don't need a big incubator for quail, especially if you're using it for backyard and food only. And you only want to breed 50 or 60 quail a year. You know, you can get away with just a tiny incubator like this and a few batches every year. That's fine. So that's why you don't really have to lash out and go expensive. But when you do buy one of these cheaper ones, you've got to look after it. Okay, so I've got this cheap automatic incubator here. It's got a unique sort of turning style. If you want to see more about this, go see my other video on this automatic incubator. It doesn't even have a name, it's so cheap. And then I've got some eggs that I've just received in the post. These are some duck eggs. She's wrapped them up beautifully from Heather. I purchased these, I found these for sale on Gumtree, which is like a similar thing to eBay in Australia. And you know, you can do your research, you can correspond with the seller and find out what they're like, and she's got a fairly good reputation, and I like the way Heather responded to my questions. And at the end of the day, I ended up buying some duck eggs from her. Now, why would I buy duck eggs? Because I've got my own ducks, and they're sitting on their, some of them are sitting on their eggs at the moment, and I'm breeding with my own duck eggs and hatching them out. Well, the reason why is because every few years you really should introduce some new blood into your flock. If you don't, you can get some inbreeding, and you don't want to start renewing your stock when you see, you know, one extra leg, or a beakless duck or a beakless bird or something going wrong from too much interbreeding. You want to sort of, you don't have to manic and try to work out what's what duck and what's what chicken and who's mating with who. You don't have to be that manic when you just got a simple backyard setup. It's not like you're a big breeder or anything and you really need to keep strict bloodlines. You can just be sort of ad lib, and I just sort of, I wouldn't know one duck from another. All I know is that I do every few years find someone different, buy the eggs off them, someone trustworthy, and then introduce these new ducks to the flock so that then they can mate and have new offspring, and they're not like sister and brother or brother and mother mating together and that type of thing. So that's why I occasionally buy extra eggs, and I do this for chickens, and I do that for quail too, to replenish all those bloodlines, and then I just mix them all up together. So I've got the duck eggs here. I'll open them up for you. So yeah, she's packed them nicely in this foam. The express packet got to me within a couple of days. Hopefully, it is always risky getting eggs in the post, because you don't know if they're going to stay viable, and you know, you don't ever know for sure if the seller is got good quality eggs and all that. You can only go off reputation, and people make mistakes, and sometimes it doesn't work out the way you want it to, and sometimes, you know, it's just a bad batch of eggs, and everybody gets that from time to time as well. So you can't blame everyone about that. So she's got this in the shoe box, and she's got a lot more foam here as well. She has packed this amazing. Actually, I'll get my phone out and show you guys how well she has packed this. See how she's foamed it up, and then she's put cellophane around these egg cartons. Remember, these are duck eggs. and she's given me a bit extra. It was a dozen that I bought, but she's given me a little bit extra. Okay, and I can use some of this packing myself because I'll tell you what I mean later. All right, so that's good. I'll put these in the incubator soon and get it up and running. But what I wanted to talk about was what's a cheap and easy way to insulate something like this. Well, these styrofoam boxes, you'll find them everywhere. All I do is I go around in industrial areas and around where, you know, the back of businesses and that, and you'll see them. They get various stuff, food stuffs and all that, and they tend to chuck them out. I always ask, so in this case, I saw this box just sitting in an industrial bin from a business out the back, so I went and asked the lady, hey, are you throwing that out? And she said, yeah, go for it, you know. And I picked it up because I like these. I've got about 3 or 4 of them. They come in handy. One for this insulation I'm going to show you in a minute, and for growing vegetables, you know, poke a few holes in the bottom, and they're a really good insulation, good for holding potting mix, and good for container gardening. Especially, you know, you can make lots of things out of it. Just because you've got a big veggie garden outside, and like I've got an acreage and all that type of thing, you know, you can still turn this into a small container garden. Like I can give you a good example. In summer, we can't grow lettuce here because it's too hot. But if I move, say, a styrofoam box into a semi-shaded area where it gets some good misting every day, and keep the temperature just around this box insulated and cool, and the roots cool, well then the lettuces don't bolt as easy as they would if they were just sitting in the patch, and we can get a lettuce crop out of them. You know, so there's many uses you can get out of these styrofoam boxes, but in this case, this also came with some packing, plastic packing, bags filled with air. That is going to be good as well. So you want the box, styrofoam box is better for the insulation. If you're using a cardboard box or something like that, you could cut it, you could have a cardboard box that almost is maybe a few inches bigger than this, and then stuff it with insulation around. But you want to make sure that you can get access easily and check the eggs and look inside and that type of thing without having to pull out everything out of the box. So for instance, in this case, this has got a container here, and if I had a really small box, a water container which needs to be filled to keep the humidity up when you're incubating the eggs, if I had a really small box, I'd probably cut a window in the front. And if you saw the video that I did on this incubator, on the box that I actually had at the time, I had a window cut in the cardboard box, and so that I could easily fill this up without having to take the incubator out of the box and then fill this up, if you know what I mean. In this case, because the box is big, because the box is fairly big, I could just take the styrofoam lid off and then pull out this, fill it up, shut it up, that. And if I want to check, I just have to open that up, open up the lid if I want to do any work, and there you go. The only thing, that's what makes a box like this so good, is this will keep it insulated and it'll stop this working so hard. And it's just a box without any extra work. The only thing I'd have to do is see that cord. Obviously that's got to plug into something. I don't want to cut a hole in the bottom, and that means that air is going to escape. Probably wouldn't matter too much, but it's pretty easy just to, where the incubator sits in the corner here, I'll put the cord over And because the lid is going to sit up now on that cord, I'll cut a little hole, I'll cut a little slit. It's only styrofoam. I'll just use my scissors and I'll cut a little slit there. The cord will go, the cord's now through, so that when the lid goes on, it'll go on nice. There's a few little pencil holes in this, so it will breathe a little bit, but it's going to keep it nice and warm, and that incubator is going to not have to work as hard to keep its core temperature. Of course, around this incubator, I'm going to make use of all this extra packing stuff. I might as well use this beautiful foam she packed the eggs with. Why not? Lovely. And that's going to keep it perfect. So there we go. Got the incubator in there. It took me 5 minutes to get this done. It's going to do the job. The incubator is going to last for me. It's going to not overheat. I'm going to be able to fill this up just by pulling that out and pouring from the top. I'm going to be able to get access to the eggs when I need it. And there we go. It'll go on. It's just a matter of me loading this incubator up now with the duck eggs. Putting a bit of water in here and leaving it go. And hopefully in about 28 days we'll have ducklings. Boy, she really wrapped these eggs up. Even the egg cartons have been packed with foam. Each individual egg has been wrapped. She has gone through a lot of trouble to make sure that the eggs get to me in really good condition. And that is a good sign of a professional breeder who sells eggs. You know, you remember these people because you go back to them. That's what I reckon. Here they are. Now this is a unique incubator. It actually does turn the eggs when these cylinders here, they turn around and the eggs turn around with it, and then the eggs on top turn back the other way. Quite a unique system. Anyway, I'll put that on, put some water in here, and we'll get it started. I'll show you. So that's it. The eggs are all packed into the incubator. The incubator's been turned on. It's in its foam box. I just got to put the lid on it. I've got some water here. There's water in it for the humidity. And it's as simple as that. Good cheap Chinese incubator, very tiny, doesn't take long to heat up. You know, one of the things that you really should do is always run an incubator before you ever put any eggs in it, especially if it's new or you haven't used it for a long time. Let it run for several days and make sure that the temperature stays constant and that it's actually keeping a good temperature around about that 37.6 or so degrees, or the 98 Fahrenheit or whatever that is. But this concept here works very easy. really simple styrofoam box, cheap, simple incubator to operate, and yeah, that's that. I hope you got some tips and hints out of incubation and this video. If you've got any questions, leave them below, of course. Don't forget to share and like the video. That's always very important. And thanks a lot for watching. Bye for now. Beauty.